On February 17th, 2024, Ilia Topuria, the German-born Spanish fighter of Georgian origin, became the 5th undisputed champion in the UFC featherweight division. He achieved this after delivering a highlight reel knockout to the reigning champion, Alexander Volkanovski. This video is about the specific peak performance training protocol that Ilia Topuria has followed for over a decade to become who he now is. And since the psychology of success and achievement doesn't discriminate whether you are trying to become an elite athlete, elite entrepreneur, elite performer of whatever kind, if you apply this protocol, I can guarantee you will become the Ilia Topuria of whatever game you choose to play. Welcome back. Hello everyone, Leon Castillo here, founder of Selfmastered Peak Performance Academy for founders and CEOs. So the past 6 years, we've compiled the most actionable research on peak performance and self-mastery to help our clients scale without distractions, overwhelm, and burnout by helping them master the mind and triple productivity. And as a Spaniard and as an absolute obsessed guy with peak performance and self-mastery, I've been following the rise of Ilia Topuria for over a year at this point. I've watched hundreds of interviews in Spanish, and I have compiled the most important protocols that you are now going to learn, and I guarantee they will work wonders for you. So protocol number 1 is commitment to your mission. Until the age of 7, Ilia Topuria lived in Germany. Then he moved to Georgia when he started training in Greco-Roman fighting. At the age of 15, he moved to Alicante, Spain, where I'm getting married in a couple of months, in order to live with his family, to reunite with his family. He had no interest in mixed martial arts until he met the Clement brothers, who have the most important MMA fighting gym in Alicante. Those were the guys who introduced Ilia and his brother Alexander into the world of MMA fighting. Both were hooked from the start. And as soon as they realized they had ton of potential in that sport, they wholeheartedly committed to becoming the UFC champion. At the age of 15, Ilia Topuria committed to becoming the UFC featherweight champion. That is 12 years ago. And that set in motion a whole host of neurological changes in his brain that gave him no other choice but to become that champion. Here's how it works. While high awareness is crucial for high performance, we all have a mechanism in the brain that regulates our awareness to the level to barely subsist. It sounds unfortunate, but it is very important because the conscious processing capacity of our mind is about 120 bits per minute. And this was calculated by Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, the godfather of flow. Now, the problem is that we are bombarded with about 34 gigabytes of information coming from our senses every single day, which means that 99.99% of the information that we perceive gets ignored by the conscious mind because we cannot handle it. We will be absolutely overloaded. Now, the mechanism that regulates what information we pay attention to or not is called reticular activating system, or RAS. The RAS is the mechanism that discriminates between useful and unuseful information. And the goal of the RAS is basically to keeps us alive. So it leverages our beliefs and unconscious mental patterns to discriminate what is important and not important. Once Ilia committed to becoming the UFC champion, whatever it took, this signaled his RAS to pay attention to information that would validate this choice, and more importantly, filter out any contrary evidence. The more he trained, the more he moved forward in his journey, the better attuned his brain became at filtering out information that did not match with his predefined belief of becoming a UFC world champion. And the more you filter in information that is relevant to you, the better you become at pattern recognition. you start seeing deeper into your reality because you're not scattered, you're not focused on too many things, you're just focused on the thing that matters most to you. If you start seeing patterns that others do not see, you become better at that thing. So the moment he committed to becoming a UFC world champion, he started perceiving patterns in his training, in his nutrition, in other fighters, in new styles of fighting. He eventually became an absolute rock star at his craft because he was filtering out everything that was not his craft. So commitment is foundational for elite performance. If you do not commit to the thing that you are choosing to do with your life, you will have a lot of irrelevant information coming in through your senses that do not help you become who you want to become. Now, how can you apply this? Well, first of all, design a mission for the next 10 years. If you are already in business, think about what is the larger mission that your business serves. Who are you willing to serve and who are you willing to become in order to achieve that mission? Really devote time to this. Spend time with yourself thinking about what would an elite 10 years of your life look like, so you can have a first taste of what elite performance looks like. Really think this through, devote time to designing this vision. So commitment is the first step towards elite performance, but is it enough? No, it is not enough, of course. The second peak performance protocol that Ilia Topuria has leveraged, and this is very obvious in every interview, is living in the future. Living in the future is basically conducting yourself like you already have the goal you are seeking to achieve. Because everyone can dream big dreams and have big goals, and most people never achieve them. And part of that is because they put those goals in a pedestal. They're constantly reminding themselves they don't have the goal. They wish they could be something, but they're not. So they're training their ass against the commitment they had in the first place. But elite performers do this differently. If Ilia Topuria committed to becoming UFC featherweight champion when he was 15 years old, he started conducting himself like a champion, training like a champion, networking like a champion, going to events that champions would go, create this aura, this persona of the first UFC champion in Spain's history. Over time, he had a solid belief in himself as the champion, years before he even had the chance to go against Volkanovski. He created a YouTube series called Road to the Belt years before he even had a chance to go for the belt. He changed his Instagram handle to 15-0 undisputed champion of the UFC featherweight division 2 weeks before the actual bout for the title. This is what some spiritual authors called assuming the state of the wish fulfilled. This is crucial for mental performance because it streamlines your thoughts, your emotions, and your behavior. You're not paying attention to the things that remind you that you don't have what you want, and you just go assuming you already have it. So you conduct yourself like the person who will eventually achieve it. Now, how can you apply this into your life? Well, very simple. Let's say that you want to build an 8-figure business, right? A 10 million or revenue or above. Well, the average performer way will be, well, let's just build a business and hopefully get to 8 figures, right? But knowing that only 0.04% of businesses actually get there, and now it is, and start this mental chatter, which will seldom lead to an 8-figure business. But the elite performer approach is different. If you really want to build an 8-figure business, from the start, you design an offer that can take you faster to that 8-figure level. You network with 8-figure entrepreneurs. You access masterminds and clubs where they are present. You go after business opportunities that are very large in size, and so on and so forth. You develop the discipline, work ethic, but also leverage ethic, building a team that can take you to 8 figures. In essence, the average and elite performer way differ because the average performer wishes for something and works very hard to get it, but the identity is not wrapped around those behaviors. The elite performer way is different. They already assume they have the goal, and time only has to catch up. Quick note to say that if you're having value from this video, like, subscribe, and send it to a couple of entrepreneurial friends. Help me help others building fantastic businesses. Now, mental training protocol number 3 is developed insane self-efficacy and understand the role of self-belief in shaping your reality. There's this theory of planned behavior that states that your beliefs shape your actions would eventually shape your results. In other words, there's a circular relationship between who you think you are, that with the actions that you actually do, and the reality that you eventually experience. If you have a limited belief about your ability to get things done and figure things out, you will see few possibilities to get things done and achieve stuff. So eventually your result will reflect that lack of belief in your ability to figure things out. But you have a very expansive scope of belief. If you truly believe you can achieve anything you set your minds to, you will start perceiving, filtering in avenues for achievement and other people would not see. So this creates a circular relationship between what you believe you're able to do and what you end up doing and achieving. And there's this theory called self-efficacy, coined by Albert Bandura, that strengthens the fact that it is not what you believe about yourself what matters. What matters is what you believe you can achieve. So in essence, what you believe you are able to do. It is a belief in your agentive capabilities, not your own self, right? In essence, is assuming that everything is figure-outable. If you truly believe everything is figure-outable, you have a higher chance to eventually figure things out. So when Ilia Topuria was training in Alicante, which is the 6th or the 7th city in Spain, 300,000 people, so quite small, just one MMA gym, no tradition whatsoever or MMA fighting in Spain or in Georgia, but he instead chose to believe that he was going to be the first person to achieve this. And he, in his own words, nobody ever in history has achieved what I'm about to do. This created avenues for him to achieve it. He eventually figured out the way of getting into the UFC radar. When the UFC called him 10 days before a fight that was scheduled for someone else, but that someone else dropped out, and he went there without training right after getting COVID, he had the self-efficacy to believe he was going to figure out a way to destroy his opponent, Joseph Zalal, which he did in 2020. Self-efficacy is highly correlated with entrepreneurial success. There's plenty of research that proves this fact. Now, how can you apply this? Well, start training your self-efficacy by assuming that absolutely everything is figure-outable. Every time you're faced with an obstacle or a problem, assume that that is an opportunity for you to figure something out that you wouldn't otherwise have figured out. It is an opportunity to grow, not an opportunity to lament. Which leads me to point number 4. And point number 4 has to do with discipline and sacrifice. Sigmund Freud, the famous psychologist, said that peak performance is a never-ending push against the death wish, as he called the tendency of the mind towards equilibrium, towards shying away from pain and discomfort. But you and I both know, and he was very clear about that too, that no growth happens within our comfort zone. We need to push against the limits of that comfort zone. And this is the difference between average and elite performers. Average performers have a small comfort zone. Elite performers have an infinite comfort zone because they're ready to tackle on every single challenge. Even if they have fear, even if they don't like it, even if they don't feel like going or training or cutting weight in the case of Ilia Topuria, they still do it because they understand that peak performance stands at the other side of that discomfort. Training your mind to be disciplined and to be sacrificed can be trained. And it all starts by understanding what things you're doing that do not align with who you're willing to become and sacrifice that. Over time, you create momentum and discipline becomes the natural consequence of doing the things you intimately find meaningful. As Michael Gervais, performance psychologist, says, greatness has a cost. Sacrifices are a must. So you gotta choose what you sacrifice and be unrelenting on the need to sacrifice them. Now, don't go overboard with this because you don't want to sacrifice the things that keep you alive, right? So good, nurturing relationships and great habits should not be sacrificed. Find balance. But the way to apply this is by understanding that if you truly want to become the UFC world champion in your specific industry, if you want to become the Ilia Topuria of your division, whatever it is that you're doing, you gotta sacrifice the things that do not lead you to that outcome. Which leads me to protocol number 5, and this is very very important. So please start doing this. I'm of course going to talk about meditation and visualization, which is two proven practices to streamline your cognition and behavior. I'll start with meditation. In my view, meditation is one of the 4 most important habits for a healthy living, especially in today's day and age. Sleep, nutrition, exercise, and meditation. For me, meditation is mental training. Meditation, most people think, is just a tool to regulate stress, and that's true. But so much more than that, because meditation fosters your cognitive performance by thickening your cortex, your brain. It creates space between your thoughts and yourself so you can become more adept understanding your thoughts and your emotions. It also streamlines your neurophysiological health so you can regulate your stress response, and it awakens you to your spiritual nature. Having a consistent meditation opens the door to presence, to flow, to permanent enjoyment in the present moment, which is a core distinction of elite performers. You cannot be an elite performer if you do not meditate, because your mind will always be rushing, you'll always be frenzied, you'll always be nervous, always paying attention to every thought and every emotion that pops into your mind. Meditation is the conscious act of returning to your breath or an anchor of your choosing, and that is how you over time train a mind that is calm. It can really help you remain in control even when you are in the octagon, in the cage of UFC, like in the case of Topuria. But in your case, or my case, might be going on a stage, right? We're going to talk in front of hundreds of people. We got to be calm, collected, and in control. And visualization is the act of using your imagination to recreate physical objects in your consciousness. And this illuminates the same brain regions that would be illuminated if you did the thing for real. There's plenty of research that proves that this is a fantastic training tool for the mind. In fact, in the old Soviet Union, they had a ratio of 3-to-1 mental to physical training for most Olympic disciplines. So they were imagining themselves practicing, ice skating or hockey or whatever, 3 times more than they were actually practicing. Ilia Topuria is big on visualization because it helps him streamline his cognition, the thoughts he has and the behaviors he eventually deploys in the octagon. So meditation and visualization are core habits of elite performers, and I invite you to incorporate them into your routine. I meditate 20 minutes every single morning, and I visualize 10 minutes every single morning. Also, before sales calls, I will also visualize. Before jumping on a stage, I will also visualize. I'm constantly incorporating these techniques from elite sports psychology to streamline my ability to get things done and do them effectively. And finally, the final protocol is also something that Topuria has discussed quite a bit, is gratitude. Gratitude is your ability to feel grateful for what you already have. In Topuria's world, he believes that God has bestowed upon him gifts that he has the responsibility to feel grateful for. He's constantly alluding to his faith and to God. You don't necessarily need to have faith to leverage gratitude. The brain responds similarly to joy and gratitude, so you can literally trick yourself into being happy, which is a precondition to success, right? Success does not lead to happiness. Happiness leads to success, and gratitude leads to happiness. Having a consistent gratitude practice, noting every day a couple things that you are genuinely, emotionally grateful for, will help you wonders in regulating your stress levels and overall emotional management. Topuria is very big on gratitude. Pretty much in every interview, he discusses how grateful he is for having the opportunity to be a world champion. In fact, years before, he actually had the chance to go against Volkanovski. In fact, he was so grateful that the night before the big comeback, when everybody else was nervous, he was like a kid before Christmas, overjoyed, jittery, thinking about how grateful he was for having the opportunity of becoming a UFC champion. Again, he had not yet gone against Volkanovski. So these are the 6 practices that I truly believe can shape a different life for you in and outside of business, doesn't really matter. Create a mission and really commit to it. Then assume the state of the wish fulfilled. Do not sabotage by thinking you don't have what you want. Assume you already have it. Conduct yourself like you already have it. Then nurture unrelentless self-belief and self-efficacy. build that elite mind that believes and shapes reality around you to further that conviction. Then sacrifice everything that is not aligned with the goal to foster your discipline to further convince you that you are on that mission. Then train your mind through meditation and visualization to have your ability to find calmness, presence in the moment, and streamline your thoughts, your emotions, and your behavior for elite performance. And finally, be grateful. Understand you have already arrived. What you already have is a gift bestowed upon you because of the universe, God, whatever you choose to believe. It does not matter. What matters is that you leverage the scientific benefits of gratitude to become happy in the moment so you can become successful. If you want to dive deeper into my specific protocols for meditation and visualization, here's a video that will teach you everything that I know. And of course, if you want our proven help to leverage these protocols to master yourself and scale without any hiccups, book up with us. Thank you.